Hello and welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Ritchie and I'm the founder and CEO of Senior Savvy, which relieves tech stress for older adults so they can excel in today's world. However, you can find me here every Tuesday talking with people who are involved in this age tech space in senior living. And that's exactly what we're going to do here today. Before I introduce my guest, I'm going to run my intro. Well, welcome back. And I want to go ahead and introduce my guest today from GrandPad. I have Nathan Vogt. He is the Director of Strategic Accounts. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, Nathan.
Thank you, Abbie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So tell us, how long have you been with GrandPad and what is your zone of genius there?
Yeah. First of all, I have to compliment you on that sign behind you. Keep it simple. That is one of when I jumped on the call and saw that is one of our mantras, and you'll hear us talk about that a lot. We design technology for seniors. So I've been with GrandPad just 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in the Medicare Advantage world. So I've had an eye on seniors and healthcare delivery for seniors and how to produce better outcomes in healthcare for seniors for quite a long time. And so I came to GrandPad with that background, with an eye on how we can design tech that's senior friendly, senior centric, and helps keep seniors safe and in their homes for as long as they can be there.
So I think I heard you say, or maybe we talked about this previously, that you've been with GrandPad for about 2 years. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So take me back to the day and time because so much has changed, right?
Yeah.
Did you start pre-COVID or what?
Yeah. So first of all, just some about GrandPad a little bit, and we can talk more about this. But GrandPad's about 8 years old, and we were started by a father and son who were living in Southern California. They were Midwesterners by origin, and they had been living in California. Scott and Isaac Lean. Isaac was just in college, early in college, and they were struggling with something you know well, which is delivering technology and using technology with seniors, particularly those over 85. So GrandPad's been around, was founded, and we can talk more about what makes GrandPad what it is, what makes it different. But I came to GrandPad a couple of years ago, literally right before COVID. So I met some folks live and in person. And then as we continued our conversation, they moved online the way that all of our lives moved online. And GrandPad at the time was getting a lot of interest from healthcare entities who were looking to do virtual care, telehealth, care in the home. So I met the GrandPad folks in that space right as COVID started. And really in the last 2 years, with COVID, with the need to keep people safe in their homes, with the inability to bring patients into clinics, particularly seniors who are even more vulnerable to COVID than the rest of us, our healthcare offering and our healthcare partnerships have really grown just exponentially. So that's been my journey with GrandPad over the last couple of years, is really looking at how we use GrandPad, which is a senior-centric technology designed just for seniors, how we can use that in healthcare delivery. And we've had great partnerships and have really done a lot of amazing things in the last couple of years.
Well, good. So much has changed in the last couple of years, and just, the whole nature of technology and access to technology has changed. So it's so exciting to know, what your experience was, how things have changed. I can only imagine in the, 2 years ago, the nature of those conversations just shifted probably so much, right? From here's where we're planning on going, and then here's where we're going now. But I want to ask you, why not just a standard tablet? Okay. Yeah. They are out there. They're good. They've been around for a long time. Why not a standard tablet?
Well, and the truth is a standard tablet for obviously a lot of folks is great. And even for those over 65, folks we call seniors, a 65-year-old just pretty young today. You know, I think a
Yeah.
65-year-old today is a much younger person than they were certainly 100 years ago.
I think an
Um,
85-year-old is a lot younger than they were.
They
So
certainly are. They certainly are. But you know what we found, and this was really Scott and Isaac's story and their journey in creating GrandPad, was that there were still barriers for seniors. Seniors are vulnerable to security problems when they have those kind of tools in the home, and they can struggle with the standard technology. So what they really set out to do was start from scratch, work directly with seniors, build the whole platform, the technology, the tablet, the support system, the software, specifically and only for seniors. So we're not trying to teach a senior how to use something that was designed for a 30-year-old. We started from the bottom up and we worked with seniors all along the way. And what you find when you do that is that there are barriers. Passwords are barriers. Standard glass on a standard iPhone doesn't respond well to dry skin. Hearing is a problem. We have different glass. We have loud front-facing stereo speakers that make it easier for seniors to hear. And probably most importantly, we have a customer service platform built into the GrandPad. With one touch of a button, you get one of our folks 24/7, 365, who will answer any question you have. We can provide any level of support. We can take over control of the device. We proactively teach seniors how to use their tablets. We reach out to them when their batteries get low. So what we tried to build was not just a tablet, but an entire ecosystem, an entire environment that surrounds that tablet that makes it easier, not intimidating. I noticed that one of the questions you asked on your website is someone going to make me feel stupid for not knowing how to use technology? And that's one of our goals. You know, our seniors, we only work with seniors. So when you call GrandPad and get a customer service person, on average, they're talking to an 83-year-old. That's the average age of our user. And so it doesn't need to be for everybody and those who are comfortable with regular technology. But what we find is that seniors, you know, love the technology, and they also love this kind of closed ecosystem that we've built. GrandPads are locked down from access from outside parties. So only trusted family contacts can reach a senior on a GrandPad, and that institutionalizes trust for them. It builds the sense that this is a trusted device. It's not going to ring when someone's trying to scam me or solicit me for something. It's only going to be for those trusted sources. So we have folks that have a landline. We have folks that may have another cell phone, but they still have a GrandPad because it fits these needs. It keeps them safe, and it allows their family members to know that they're connecting with them in a safe and secure way as well.
There's so much that you just said that I got to tell you just really excites me.
Yeah.
In particular, the customer service aspect.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm with my clients, we call customer service, we call Apple Care, we call Geek Squad, you know, and I help them facilitate these calls.
Yeah.
I've called the Lively folks before and helped arrange rides. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always listening to hear how the customer service is responding to an older adult. Like my ear is always attuned to, are they speaking slowly? Are they speaking clearly?
Right.
Are they talking down to someone or not?
Yeah.
And so those are things that are really interesting to me. And then I also want to mention a couple of things that you said that I really like. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what I really like is this reactive screen that
Mm-hmm.
you said, like it's
mm-hmm.
specifically for drier fingers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that is such a challenge with a lot of older adults.
Yeah. So we have a great picture that we use in a lot of our promotional material or when we're doing a sales presentation. And it's a photograph of our founder, Scott Lean, about 8 years ago when we were first getting started. We were testing beta versions of the GrandPad. And he's sitting with a woman who was one of our early testers. And by the way, I should mention, we employ a group of seniors who range in age from about 85 to about 106. And they work with us and they test everything we do. And let me tell you, they are a tough audience sometimes, right? Yeah. They give very, very pointed critique. So this picture has Scott sitting with a woman named Anna. She was 114 at the time. She was the 7th oldest person in the United States. I think I have that right. And she was testing the GrandPad and she has her finger up. And
Yeah.
she's really the first one that clued us into this issue. The dry skin for folks, particularly over 85, isn't reactive in the way that yours and mine might be on an iPad or an iPhone. And so we simply re-engineered the glass. Our GrandPads are built for us, custom by Acer Computer. They're one of our business partners. So everything about the GrandPad is custom. It's not an off-the-shelf tablet. And that's just one of the features that we really identified as critical for seniors. I mentioned those speakers, loud, large, front-facing. You can't cover them on the side. All the buttons and the controls are always on the screen and on the interface. We never ask them to turn it up or down. We have an inductive charging cradle, which holds the GrandPad at a nice viewing angle, so it can just rest there all day. It turns into a digital photo frame. We've hardwired a 8-foot charging cord into that because we found that was about the right distance to let them set it next to an easy chair and never have to worry about sticking a firewire size plug into the back of an 8-inch tablet like that. So, all of those little features, and those are kind of hardware features before we even start talking about the software, which is all custom designed. We have made it uniform in functionality and appearance. So if you get used to the way the music feature works on the GrandPad and the volume, it'll feel very familiar when you're doing a video call with a loved one. Those volume buttons will look the same. So you don't have to get used to every new app that comes along. You can get used to sort of the environment of the GrandPad and how it looks and feels, and then, just feel empowered. And that's something that, I think you probably understand too, seniors can feel very disempowered by technology. They can feel like they're being left behind. They can feel like it's not designed for them. They can feel intimidated by it. And these people who have had beautiful, long, successful, vibrant lives are suddenly looking at something that is the latest and greatest thing, and it makes them feel foolish. Yeah. And that's something we never want to happen. So that's part of our intent in all that design work as well.
Okay. Well, here's something you didn't mention that I really like, and I'm a huge advocate of, and that is the bright case. The bright, colorful case. Is that standard on all the devices?
Yep. So all of the GrandPads ship with a custom design case. We have it built specifically for the GrandPad. It closes and shuts it down. It's designed to be protective. GrandPads are all insured. So if you have a problem with it, we just simply ship you a new one. We pre-configure every GrandPad before we ship it. So we don't ask you to take something out of the box that's just off the shelf and then download the language and tell it everything about yourself. We set that up in advance through our platform. So we know who the GrandPad's going to. We build it for them. We connect any family contacts that we can before it even ships. So the minute it hits the ground, it's ready to go. So just an anecdote, I had one sent to my Aunt Hildy, who is 90 years old, living in a nursing home. She has a lot of kids and a lot of grandkids and a bunch of great grandkids. So we got that configured for her before it left, our warehouse. By the time it landed at her assisted living facility, she was able to open it. And we have this 90-90 rule. We say that a 90-year-old should be able to open a GrandPad, set it on the charging cradle, and begin using it and enjoy it within 90 seconds. So she did. She put it on the charging cradle, and she had hundreds of pictures already streaming into her photo feed from all of these kids. With one touch of a button, she could make video calls to any of them. They were all connected through the free GrandPad app that we open up to trusted family members. So, those kinds of things can make a big difference in terms of the way people adopt technology and learn to love it and learn to trust it.
I gotta say, I'm starting to like it more and more. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with it. I really don't. And so, and at my first glance, it looks very childish to me. I've got kids and, started them off with a Fire tablet. But the more I hear you talking about the features and why they are the way they are, the more I like it. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, it is. I think the thing to remember is that, our average user is 83. And that age group all by itself can struggle with common technology. My mom's 88, and, doing a video call with her before she had a GrandPad was a challenge. She couldn't hear, for one thing. So she had an older iPhone, and she would stick it up to her ear. So you'd spend half the call on her looking at it, looking at the inside of her ear. And the other problem is every time she had a problem, she had to get on the line with Apple, or, even worse, go down to her Apple store and wait in line and then be told that a genius 24-year-old could see her 8 hours later. And, she just stopped using it as a result. And our goal is that this stays in the home. It keeps them connected. It keeps them safe. Anytime they have a question, it's one touch of a button. And we do, and I think I mentioned this, we do proactive outreach as well. So when that GrandPad landed for my Aunt Hildy, she started getting calls from us, introducing us, or she gets assigned an agent that agent calls her and says, I'm from GrandPad. Can I walk you through some of the features and functions? So the simplicity, to go back to the sign behind you, the simplicity is really part of the design goal. Keep it simple so that they can simply enjoy the things that are most important to them, staying connected to family and friends, enjoying pictures, playing games, getting some information through news and other sources. GrandPads are configurable, so we can set up certain features and functions and not others. And that's really meaningful both for families who have GrandPads and also in the healthcare space particularly. So a healthcare entity can provide a GrandPad to somebody and only provide the features and functions that are most important to them.
I want to add on to something you said, and
Mhm.
that's keep it simple. And yeah, that's one of my principles that we stand behind at Senior Savvy. But I got to add something onto that.
Mhm.
And it's also something I've been hearing you talk about. So when I say KISS, keep it simple, senior, I
Mhm.
never say the other S word because the people I work with are wise and
Yeah.
their input is valued. And
Yeah.
like you said, they've lived amazing lives. And there's just, no reason that they should be at this point in their life trying to learn an operating system, right?
Right. Right. And I don't think, the technology as it advances, it doesn't get simpler. Right. I mean, every time I get a new iPhone, it doesn't really get simpler.
Mhm.
Typically there's more complexity, there's more
Yeah.
new features and functions. I go from a fingerprint logon, now I got a face logon, except that
Yeah.
doesn't work because we wear masks a lot now. I mean, these kinds of things are huge barriers for seniors. Setting up the finger, I remember trying to get my mom to set up that fingerprint logon
Yeah.
with her 87-year-old skin, which is very dry. It barely worked, and she never really got it to go for her at all. So I mean, those kinds of things just get that age group to set things aside. And I think the other thing to mention is, folks, the simplicity is very beneficial for folks who are struggling with any kind of cognitive decline,
Hmm.
motor skills. Those icons on a standard tablet are very small, and the kind of controls you need to operate those are very small. So, declines in motor skills, declines in cognitive ability, which sadly affects so many seniors as they get into their 80s and early 90s. Part of what we're doing is designing to those folks as well so that they don't get left behind. One of the things we talk about a lot is who's going to get left behind.
Yeah.
As technology moves forward, as more people rely on virtual technology as the primary way that they communicate with one another, especially after COVID, I feel like we're more insular. We're working from home. People have moved away from city centers, and great, you and I can do a video call. We're on here. Even we had some audio issues at the beginning, but who's going to get left behind if that's more and more the way we communicate? And sadly, it's going to be these folks who were isolated to begin with. Isolation and loneliness is a huge factor for seniors in this country, and we just can't afford to make it worse.
Yeah, I want to ask you about some of the integrations and some of the special features, and in regards to those who get left behind. So, what I'm finding lately working with people is that uh, I'm trying to get them used to using the digital assistant to do
Mm-hmm.
dictation, to do all the features and the functions and open apps and speech to text, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
eventually your eyesight might diminish and you lose dexterity in your fingers. So the more you can pour into the digital assistant now, the more it's going to serve you later. And I just find this over and over again how hard it is to teach someone
Yeah.
who has Parkinson's, for instance, how to operate the dictation on their device. So
Yeah.
does GrandPad have that integrated capability?
So we can integrate with all kinds of other features and functions. We have built GrandPad specific apps. Just for example, around Zoom. Early in COVID, we sort of anticipated that Zoom was going to become much more used by healthcare entities, families, and so forth. So we built a very specific GrandPad Zoom app so that it's a simple and easy experience. So yeah, we can integrate, and we do that in different ways with different kinds of technology. We have always had what we call voice to text emailing capability. So if my mom wants to send me an email, she can type it, but she can also just record it. And I get it as an MP4 file, and that's part of her sort of feed to me. We have all these beautiful stories about people who've had that cadence of correspondence with a loved one. And after they pass, now they have all these great audio recordings that they've sent them, as audio emails over the years. So we do integrations like that, where we do integrations in the healthcare space. What we always want to do is never degrade the user experience.
Yeah.
Always keep it simple. always keep it accessible,
Mhm.
and always keep it uniform so that your GrandPad experience is very similar. So we never just sort of drop something on there and hope they can figure it out. We always bring it into our universe, bring it into the way that we build things for seniors to keep it simple and keep it enjoyable for them. We never want to create a bad experience with the technology, because then that sends them out the door and they'll give up on it.
So absolutely, and it sounds like you've added things in like Zoom for telehealth, right? For video
Yep.
call purposes, and I think that's great. Is the GrandPad able to integrate with some of the engagement platforms like Connected Living or Quilt or Touchtone?
It certainly can. We don't have those integrations today. What we do have, so just to note, we do allow Zoom and we have Zoom built in. We also have our own video calling telehealth platform that's ours alone. So for our healthcare partners, they have access to that. They have their own logins. We create secure, our whole platform is HIPAA compliant, so it is safe and secure. We're about to get high trust certification. So it's a very secure platform for healthcare providers, and they use our native digital calling platform to do telehealth. The patient or the member receiving the GrandPad in the healthcare environment can contact them with one touch of a button. We customize that for them, and then they can do video calls back out. But some of our providers are looking at ways to incorporate other telehealth platforms onto GrandPad, and we do that when necessary and when that fits the need.
Okay, and can you add something on like a library app or
Yeah,
something like
for
that?
sure. So,
Yes.
yep, we do have, we're using Libby quite a bit.
Okay.
A lot of the folks that we work with, particularly in the healthcare space, are lower income in the Medicare, Medicaid world. They're called dual eligible. So they're seniors on Medicare. They also receive state funding because they're lower income. And those folks, Libby's a great fit for them. It allows you to, get books from your local library with no additional charge. So, yep. And what we do with that is we just customize a Libby button. And the nice thing about it is we're there to help them with that, initial login if they need help with that, or if they need help keying in their library ID so that they can get access. Our folks are always there to help. It's a very high touch model of care. And like I said, it's 24/7, always available. And there's really nothing like that we can't help them with. We can reach out to a family member if we feel like we need to bring them in. Our folks stay very involved, and you'll even see kind of relationships developing. My mom had an agent assigned to her named Michelle, and I would refuse to answer GrandPad questions for my mom. She'd
Yeah.
call me and say, "Hey, I think the speakers, I'm not sure if I'm hearing this right." I'd say, "Call Michelle." She always did, and they developed a whole relationship. So yes, we do have integrations with audiobooks, and we're certainly looking at others that more of those that we can do.
Like if my mom wanted to play Scrabble or do Wordle, for instance, could she do that too?
Yep, she could. So there's a whole suite of GrandPad built-in games that are already preloaded on the device: Texas Hold'em and Solitaire, and a huge suite of those. This year we're going to roll out multiplayer games, so family
Okay.
members connected via the GrandPad can play together. But GrandPads have internet browsers that can be enabled, so you can play Wordle through that. The nice thing about the internet browser on a GrandPad is it's configurable. So if you have a situation where you have a senior that you think is vulnerable to bad information, or you don't want them to have access to certain sites for whatever reason, we can configure the internet browser to only allow access to certain sites and not to allow them to leave those sites. And that can be meaningful both to family members who are trying to protect their seniors, and also to healthcare entities who are trying to protect their patients from any kind of information they don't want them to have access to.
I'm curious about that browser.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
So it's an Android browser under the covers. And then for us, it's just, again, we build it with a GrandPad view, with a GrandPad look. And then the internet sites that are added there are custom.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll have a healthcare entity that says, listen, I want to provide GrandPads to folks for telehealth, for virtual care, for some monitoring. I want them to be able to access certain internet sites that has content that will be helpful to them. but I don't want them to have open internet browsing so that, they're not susceptible to bad sites or bad actions or anything like that. GrandPads, I mean, we have a very robust security framework around the GrandPads. So spam and kind of scamming emails and malware is not really a concern, but we certainly don't want in some of those situations people to have access to sites that would be in any way harmful to them. And that can be customized for an individual user or for an entire organization.
And when you customize them for a user, do you do just say like an intake evaluation? Does the family fills it out? They do it together? Is that done?
Yeah. So if it's in a family setting where the family is really the one providing the GrandPad or initiating that, they have access to a portal environment that we give them at no extra charge to them. And they can go in there and specify which features and function on the GrandPad they want their relative, their family member to have. In the healthcare space, when the healthcare entity is providing the GrandPad, they similarly can tell us, hey, allow these websites and not others. And then the senior might say, well, I'd like to have access to a couple more. And as long as they allow that, we do that. But we do all that, we can do all of that from our end, essentially, and then push those updates out to the GrandPad. Seniors don't ever have to download an update to an app or download a new operating system. We always just push that out through the environment that we support. And GrandPads all do come with 4G LTE built in as part of the package that you get. So you don't have to have Wi-Fi as part of the, so when you look at a GrandPad and the price of the GrandPad, just know it has the LTE built in, it has all that customer support and the full access for an unlimited number of family members as well.
So if I was a senior living provider or an operator and wanted to supply every resident with one of these, could I integrate it with other things though? Like my, like I mentioned earlier, something like Quilt, for instance, could I put my calendar in there and my activities in there as well?
Absolutely. Yep. And we do that with a lot of our healthcare providers. We integrate with, designated websites that they've built or specific content they want to have and appear on there. There's different ways that we can do that. But yes, I think it's fair to say that almost all GrandPads that are out with our different healthcare entities are all configured and built a little bit differently depending on their needs. So they're all custom in a way. Core features and functions are always there if they want them. And then we integrate other things that they want to do into that GrandPad experience for their seniors.
I always like to know what features did you think were going to be wildly popular that just fell flat in the past couple of years? Like, I'm always curious because, it looks like on the outside, it just looks like such a success and a wonderful product. And, we all struggle with things that we try and then they just don't go anywhere. Something that comes to mind for you?
Well, I've only been here 2 years, and in those 2 years, I don't think we've rolled out anything that we think fell flat. I'll tell you about one thing that I didn't think was going to be as much of a hit as it was. While I think about whether we had anything that fell flat, but we rolled out something this last year called Moods, which is simply a way to have kind of white noise and images on the GrandPad, so you can have a rainstorm. And I sort of thought, well, I'm not sure that's going to have a big impact or that's going to be a huge hit. People love it. Care providers love it. It's calming, relaxing. That was maybe just my own, dim, not well-informed view of how popular that would be. But certainly other, I think we thought that Zoom integration would be really great for families. It turned out to be huge in the healthcare space. Because while we had a way for individual providers to do telehealth, this is a way for healthcare providers to do group activities using Zoom on the GrandPads and doing it in a way that's really simple. They never have to know a passcode. They never have to know any of that. We just integrate it. And so they're able to essentially extend their reach and do classes and nutrition classes, fall prevention classes, group activities for days when people can't be in the presence of a care provider or a case manager or somebody like that. So those have been features that have just been, I think more than we could have imagined. If Scott were here, he'd probably tell you about something in the early days that they tried and that did not go well. We are a company that we believe in, kind of crawl, walk, run. We'll try things, and if they don't fly, they don't take off all the way. So we love to experiment and innovate in that way.
It sounds to me like a bigger screen might be in the future. Is that at all?
Yeah, it's not something that's like clearly on our roadmap yet. One of the things about the size of the GrandPad, and it's about, it's about 9 inches by 4 roughly, is that the weight and the size of it are also very intentional.
Mhm.
Large enough so that seniors can see everything, and we use very large icons and very large text, but not too heavy.
Yeah.
Weight can be an issue if you want to carry it around, and we do encourage people to take it with them. It has LTE. Even if you put it on your home Wi-Fi, when you leave the house, it will pick up the LTE signal. We work with the major carriers, so we can provide service really, we believe, in most parts of the country. We work with some providers who are putting GrandPads in very rural areas with great success, where they've struggled with, because we can switch among different providers. So possibly, we're always, looking at ways for folks that struggle with visual, issues,
Yeah.
how to make that a better experience for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mhm.
in the next couple of years, where do you see the growth occurring and the advancements happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that, in the healthcare space, COVID was a watershed moment, just a defining moment in healthcare. I think a once in a generation moment. I mean, those of us who've been around healthcare for 20 or 30 years really look at that and say things changed. And what changed was the desire and the ability to do care virtually, to deliver care to people in the home. And if you know anything about seniors, you know that keeping them well and healthy and out of the emergency room, avoiding readmissions to the hospital is the whole game, both in terms of their health and well-being and in terms of our medical spending. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a huge shift to care in the home, virtual care, remote patient monitoring. And, we want to be part of that. We want that to be part of what we do. We won't do every part of that. There are companies out there that send a whole hospital kit home with you, hospital bed, and all kinds of tools for hospital at home. But our spot is really more, how do we keep people connected to the folks that are providing their longitudinal care?
Yeah.
Folks at that age do better when they have more frequent interactions with care providers who keep them on track with meds, lifestyle choices. We know that health outcomes are largely driven by things that happen outside the clinic, your daily patterns in life, that what we call social determinants of health. And we want to play a role in that, keeping people healthy at home, assisting them with better living choices, with their case managers, care providers who are trying to help them manage that care. A lot of those seniors are living with multiple chronic conditions. The coordination of that care is very complicated. And so, our hope will be that we expand our reach with healthcare providers to essentially offer that portal in the home that can be the thing that coordinates the care for these seniors, gives the healthcare providers the knowledge that they can see them when they need to, get the information to them that they need, and really keep them healthy and out of the emergency room unless they absolutely need to be there. That's where we want to be in a couple of years, and we're on our way and working hard at it, and figuring out how best we can fit in there, and continue to deliver that care remotely and virtually.
Well, thank you so much. I've learned so much more. I really respect and admire what you're doing. It's much more than it appears at face value. And I'm so glad that you're able to come on today and share that with the viewer. So thank you. And keep
Thank
up.
you, Abbie. Thanks for having us, and thanks for letting me talk about GrandPad. It's always a pleasure, and congratulations on the work you're doing too. It looks absolutely amazing.
Thank you. We're closely aligned in our mission.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you.
you're welcome. And to everyone out there, if you do have any comments or questions, feel free to send them in a message. We'll be sure to get back to you. And we're so very thankful that you're here and you visit us every Tuesday. See you again next week.